What is up, ProGuides family? My name is Nathan and I'll be your host running you guys through the upcoming changes for patch 12.7. In this video, I'll break down all the changes that we're anticipating to hit the live servers next patch. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on any future content like this, and let's get the video started. The first piece of upcoming content that we'll cover are the new skins. Arcana Ahri, Hecarim, Rakan, Ryze, and Xayah are currently on the PvE. Give those skins a look, they're absolutely magical, and I'm especially a fan of Hecarim finally getting a new one. They feature new models and textures, visual effects, sound effects, and even recall animations for 1350 RP. That's it for the skins, so let's run through the balance changes next. Surprisingly, Winter's Approach is up for a nerf. It's a crucial item that allows tanks to keep up with popular fighters. However, Riot has all the data and they've concluded the item is too strong. Next patch, the price will be increased by 100 and the health lowered by 50. Not the biggest nerfs, but I'd definitely take the price increase into account. 50 HP isn't irrelevant, but it's not the biggest nerf since most tanks will also be building plenty of it. The next item on the list is Moonstone Renewer. Its bonus healing and shielding power will be reduced by 1%, meaning that the max is going down by 5%. This is a moderate nerf that should give aggressive supports a much easier time picking up kills when they land their important abilities. A change like this can surely change up the meta, so be on the lookout. If you're anticipating some big shifts next patch, there's no better time than now to contact a coach at ProGuides.com. They'll help you clean up your gameplay or master a champion of your choice, so make sure to check out our website. Another item getting a nerf is Gale Force. Marksman players aren't going to be happy to hear this, but the cooldown on its active effect is going up by 20 seconds. This is a noticeable increase and definitely makes it a lot less effective to snowball leads. With the longer downtime, you won't be able to use that extra mobility to pick up as many kills. The final system nerf is Serve Rune to Time Warp Tonic. Its burst of healing is going down from 50% of the potion's total value to 30% of it. This will make it much less significant in combat, especially in aggressive matchups. In addition, it'll provide 1% less bonus movement speed, a potentially game-changing nerf in specific scenarios. That covers the nerfs, so let's move on to the system buffs next. First up, we got Umbral Glaive, and it's receiving a buff. While it's intended to provide assassins a nice piece of utility, most players prefer to opt into an item that provides raw damage. There isn't enough of an incentive to pick this item, so Riot is reducing its cost by 100 and lowering the cooldown of its effects by 10 seconds. Next, we have a buffer Abyssal Mask. Battle mages and tanks are in for a treat. The base maximum MR shred is going up by 5, and the HP ratio has also been increased from 1 to 1.2%. I suppose this is what tanks are getting in compensation for the nerfs of Fimbulwinter. This is going to significantly increase their damage output as well as amplification for their teammates. That's it for the system changes, so let's move on to the champion balance next. We'll begin the champion changes with some nerfs. Next patch, Zeri is up for some hefty changes. She's been strong since release, but hopefully with some adjustments, she'll find an appropriate place in the meta. While these changes aren't finalized yet, here's what we expect to see. The changes are live on the PvE for reference. First, her Q's base damage is being reduced while the AD ratio will be increased. Its slow will also be stronger at early levels. Her W will also have reduced base damage with increased ratios. In addition, Zeria's E and ultimate will include crit chance scaling. A critical strike will reduce her E cooldown by another second. When her Q crits, she'll provide her ultimate with an extra stack. With these changes, Zeri won't be able to build as tanky as before and have to opt into squishier builds to continue dealing high damage. In a sense, this is a similar issue to Ezreal when he was able to build full tanky and still deal a ridiculous amount of damage. Another champion up for a nerf is Ryze. His Q mana ratio will be decreased by 1%, but the AP ratio increased by a bit. Unfortunately, with how much mana Ryze typically builds, this is gonna hurt him in most cases. Although as a single ability getting nerfed, he's significantly underperforming in solo queue. He'll continue to struggle until some larger scale changes come his way. I think we're due for a Ryze rework anyway. Before moving forward, let me ask you our question of the day. Are there any champions reworks that you disagree with? I personally think all of them have been pretty great so far, and I'm definitely looking forward to the ones coming up. However, I want to hear all of your thoughts, so let me know in the comments down below and let's continue on with the video. Although he may be caught blindsided by them, we'll see some Lee Sin nerfs next patch. His base AD as well as his Q damage are going down. This will hurt his dueling power, ganks, and even his clear speed. I think these nerfs will definitely bring him down quite a bit, so anticipate him moving down a tier list very soon. Finally, Jace is up for some huge durability nerfs. His damage is going to remain untouched, however, his base HP and armor are taking massive hits. Although the scaling on both stats will be increased, the early game is the most crucial part of Jace's gameplay. With these nerfs, more aggressive laners will be able to find opportunities to push forward and fight against them. More mobile champions will have an easier time picking up some kills, and in the mid lane, the reduced base HP will also make him more susceptible to burst damage. That covers the nerfs, so let's talk about the buffs next. We have a long list of upcoming champion buffs, so get ready. This section might include some of your favorite champions. First on the list is Gwen. Her E's cooldown refund will be increased, while her ultimate's early cooldown will be decreased. This added combat power will help her continue playing aggressively. I'm sure there are several matchups where she has to back down at some point because of having a 2-minute long cooldown on her ultimate. Rather than being forced to wait, she'll also be able to match opponents and continue fighting if their ultimates have similar cooldowns. Pantheon is also up for a set of changes next patch. His Q's tap hitbox will be adjusted to be longer but slightly narrower. Experienced players should count this as a buff because that essentially means that they have more range to work with. So yeah, they're increasing the size of Pantheon's spear, and it's going to be a lot more effective. At close ranges, it'll be slightly harder to hit, however. That being said, this is an objective buff. Pantheon will no longer slow himself when moving backwards while casting his E, and his ultimate will also land slightly faster than before. The final adjustment is a slight nerf to his HP regeneration, but most of the time, players don't even notice those changes. Another champion that's receiving a buff is Yasuo. He'll receive increased base HP as well as a reduced cooldown to his ultimate at early ranks. This opens him up to play a lot more aggressively early on, and potentially build some leads. Some players like to ult at the first opportunity that they get during the laning phase to deal some extra damage and get that extra armor penetration. The reduced cooldown on his ultimate will actually encourage his playstyle a lot more heavily, as it'll be barely over a minute long if these changes go through. His brother Yone is also up for a buff. His ultimate's cooldown will be reduced by 20 at max rank. The difference this will make is significant, since it'll bring it down to only a minute. Thus, he'll have it available for basically every teamfight in the mid to late game. Next on the list is Wukong, and he's up for massive changes. His Q's cooldown will be reduced by a second, his W's cooldown will go down by 4 at max rank, and his E will deal more damage to monsters, and he'll also significantly benefit from higher AP ratio on the same ability. One big change is that his W will allow him to jump over walls. That's a ton of extra utility that he has to work with next patch. While I do not expect AP Wukong to become popular in the foreseeable future, we'll definitely see more of him next patch with his combination of buffs. Neeko's getting some solid adjustments as well. Her W's damage and bonus movement speed are going up significantly. Be on the lookout for on-hit Neeko builds, especially next patch. Even heavy AP builds will still benefit from this change, as a bonus movement speed can really come in clutch during teamfights. We're also due for some Gangplank buffs next patch. His passive damage is being increased at later levels, while his W's mana cost is going down by 20 flat. More damage and sustain will definitely contribute to a more stable and successful early game. While the passive buff doesn't apply at level 1, you'll begin noticing it more as the laning phase drags on. In the late game especially, it's a gigantic change that'll certainly secure kills it wouldn't this patch. Another buff is going to be targeted at Kalista. Her base mana, base movement speed, and attack speed per level are all going to be increased. While these are only stat buffs, they'll definitely help quite a bit. With some extra mana, players will have a little more room for errors. We're all human after all. Extra movement speed is a big change on any marksman, and with it, Kalista will be stronger at cutting divers and also chasing down foes. Finally, the extra attack speed scaling should ensure that she doesn't fall off as hard later into the game. Another upcoming buff is for Lilia. Her passive healing ratio is going up from 12 to 20% of her AP, and her W's damage is going up by 10 at all ranks. I think the healing buff is an especially beneficial change for her. Extra sustain equals more durability and lasting longer in fights, and we know how beneficial it is to last longer in fights. The final buff that we'll be covering is for Karthus. It looks like Riot has decided they want him to be in the jungle for sure. His Q's monster damage is going up from 85 to 95%. This will provide him with a significantly increased clear speed. Changes to his clear speed have previously decided whether or not he can find his place in the meta. Even if Karthus doesn't end up being a top tier pick because of this change, his win rate is definitely going to increase significantly because of it. He'll certainly see play in high elo, at least with the players trying to test him out next patch. Finally, we have a single champion adjustment to mention. As a follow-up to his recent changes, Riot has made some adjustments to keep Rengar in line with the rest of the cast. His Q's bonus damage will be reduced by 40% on structures, and his W's bonus monster damage will also be increased. In his most recent changes, Rengar's Q began to work on turrets. As a result, you can think of this change as a minor adjustment, but the good news for Rengar players is that his clear speed will be slightly increased next patch. With all of that being said, we've concluded our upcoming changes for patch 12.7. Hope you guys enjoyed the content, and like always, feel free to share thoughts with us in the comments down below. Also, make sure to check out the description for a link to join our Discord and be part of that incredible community. And until next time, everybody, you know the drill. Stay safe, stay healthy, and have a wonderful day. Peace.